Welcome back to Generational Dr. Wealth, a personal finance show for doctors. This podcast is for educational entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Always consult your own professionals.
This is part one of the Mind of a CEO episode we have with Mr. James Sills, the CEO of M&F Bank. And in this episode, we're going to hop into the background and how he went from an undergrad student to become the CEO that he is today. And our hope is that you can learn some tidbits on how do you go from where you are to where you aspire to go one day. Hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it.
Hello. Welcome back to the Generational Dr. Wealth Show. We have a very special episode this week for you. This is going to be a two-parter. We have the one and only Mr. James Sills here, the CEO of Mechanics and Farmers Bank. I'm going to read a quick bio, and then I want to let you introduce yourself to the people. I want to say first and foremost, we're glad to have you on the show. It's an honor, and I look forward to all the information that all the doctors out there and providers will get to learn from your expertise and your years and years of experience. Mr. James Sills is the president and CEO of Mechanics and Farmers Bank, headquartered in Durham, North Carolina. M&F Bank has total assets of $500 million, 7 branches located in the 5 largest markets within North Carolina. M&F Bank is the second oldest African-American owned bank in the United States with 119 years of service. Mr. Sills' background includes a unique combination of executive experience within large-scale banking operations, community banks, government organizations. He has over 35 years of banking and technology management experience. He has served as the bank CEO for 11 years. Prior to this position, Mr. Sills was appointed by the Delaware government as the Cabinet Secretary of the Chief Information Officer for the Department of Technology and Information, serving 34,000 customers. Serves as the Independent Community Bankers of America's Board of Directors, the National Bankers Association board member, serves as the Fiserv's Minority Bank Council and board visitor, North Carolina Central University. In the past, Mr. Sills serves as the chair of Audit and Risk Committee. In the past, Mr. Sills serves as the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, chairman of the North Carolina Bankers Association, secretary and executive committee member of the ICBA, the director and executive committee member of the North Carolina Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Sills received a bachelor's from Morehouse College, as well as an MPA from the University of Pittsburgh, and is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin Banking School. That is a long resume, a lot of good stuff. That just shows a lot and a lot of service. Please tell the people who you are. We're just so interested to learn more.
Well, first, let me just say thank you for that, for the invitation to participate in your program today, Dr. Ifedi. It's great to see you again. And, I'm passionate about community banking. I've been on a journey for the past really 25 to 30 years, serving in different roles as a community banker, helping communities all across the United States. And so this is something that I'm always willing to sit down and talk with people about because it's so important to our community to understand financial services and how it impacts our lives. And what's interesting is it impacts our lives from really about the 4th or 5th grade all the way until we pass away. And we have to always be continuous learners about financial literacy and financial topics because things change so rapidly now in today's time. So it's just great to be here. And I thank you again for inviting me on your podcast.
It's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. First and foremost, we're just going to get into your background. I mean, you've achieved so much, and we just want to learn what are the steps that got you to where you are now as the CEO of Mechanics and Farmers. So I guess we can just start from, some personal background. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I moved to Wilmington, Delaware when I was 3 years old. And so I grew up in Wilmington, and then I went to Morehouse College, and I'm the oldest of 3. And it's been a good ride. I would say I'm also been married for 44 years, and I have 3 adult children and 5 grandchildren.
Mm.
So I'm really, happy and, I got a great family and a great support system. And I've always had a great support system in terms of my parents, supporting every endeavor that I've, tried to undertake over the past close to 40 years. And to tell me a little bit about me personally, I'm very tenacious. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm very curious. I've always been that way. I like to learn. I like to keep abreast of what's happening in the news and financial markets. And so those are the things that just every day, it's not a job, it's just something that I'm passionate about.
That's beautiful. One thing I learned about Warren Buffett is that he's always reading. Even at this old age, he's reading, reading, reading. And that's what really made me have a better understanding that the ones who are winning in finances and just banking and everything as far as the industry goes are the ones who know the most. And it's not because they know the most because they're the smartest in the room, it's because they're usually the most prepared in the room. So
Exactly.
I would definitely love to learn more about your preparation to go to Morehouse College. What did that feel like when you were going back to undergrad? Why'd you choose Morehouse? You could have gone anywhere. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, Morehouse is very special to me. It was probably one of the best decisions I ever made as an adolescent. Uh, I had a little bit of a help. My father graduated from Morehouse,
Mm.
and he said, that's the only school that you need to apply to. And so just think about this, and I'm pretty up there in age. Morehouse did not have a website when I applied to the school. And I never visited the campus or anything. I just knew I was going to Morehouse College.
Hmm.
And I did apply to some other schools and I was accepted, but my father didn't care. He said, "You're going to Morehouse." And again, it was the best decision I ever made.
So for those that don't know, Morehouse is in Atlanta, Georgia. It's a historically Black community college. And as the years continue to go on, I continue to learn more, and the more that I learn, I like. One of our interns at our office, he's been with us for 2 years. He went to Morehouse, and just learning about how they really build leaders and how they really encourage you to whatever space you are, really lead. And having a son, we had our first son last year, and I'm starting to think about these kind of things now as well. Where would I encourage him to go? So Morehouse is definitely on the list for sure. But if you could tell me, what are some lessons you learned that still guide you today from Morehouse?
I had some great professors there, and they were very tough on us. And it was totally different back then to compared to now. And so it was much smaller. My graduating class was only 168 students.
Wow.
So you knew everybody in the class, you knew all the professors knew you intimately. And so back then, because the class sizes were so small, the professors would call on you and they could tell immediately if you had read the information or not. And so
Mm.
you really had to study and you really had to be prepared. Um, they wanted you to be successful. They weren't trying to, um, say negative things that you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that. They wanted you to be successful. They wanted you to go to graduate school. And so when I was there, what was interesting is there wasn't a lot of talk about entrepreneurship. It was
Mhm.
always about go to graduate school right after Morehouse, go to a PWI, get a good job, and work there for 35 years and get a pension. And things have changed since then. But that was kind of the mindset is to further your education as far as you could go, and you will be very, very successful. Now, Morehouse did instill a lot of confidence in all of their graduates. They always wanted their students to get internships. I had some excellent internships when I was there. The professors would write recommendations to grad schools, and you would automatically get in with their recommendations.
Wow.
It was really a great system there that they had.
That's one thing he always says that they instill confidence, and that's the one thing Adonis does not lack is confidence.
That's good. That's good.
So whatever they're teaching over there works. Let me tell you that. First and foremost, man, he'll hop into any situation. Or just last week, he literally chased a patient out the door who felt like, oh no, this is taking too long. I gotta go. And they were only there for like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Sent
yeah.
out the door, talked her back into coming back inside, and we completed all the treatment necessary.
Excellent.
That's a Morehouse man for you right there.
Great story.
So let me ask you this. At that point, did you know you wanted to become a CEO of a bank one day? At what point did this start to materialize and become real for you that, you know what? I want to lead on a larger scale.
That was never my intention, is to be a CEO. I never thought about that. I always said I wanted to learn whatever the industry that I was in. And just a quick story, I started off my career in as a statistician, and I worked in systems and programming for the first 6 or 7 years of my career after graduating from grad school. And on my very first job, I would go in and work on the weekends, and the other colleagues of mine would say, "Why are you doing that?" And I said, "I want to learn because I want to be the best." And they would just shake their head. Why do you want to be the best? Because I knew eventually I would get to the higher echelons of management by saying I want to be the best. So I never said I wanted to be a CEO. I said I wanted to be the best.
That's amazing. So that takes me right into my next question for you. So once you finish Morehouse, am I correct in understanding you went for your public administration degree, your
I
master's?
did.
See, most people go get the MBA. I personally have my MBA. That's usually the next step. What made you think to yourself, you know what, I want to learn how to serve on a public level versus just going for your MBA?
My father had a long history of public service in Delaware. So my father was the first African American mayor of Delaware.
Wow.
Father taught public administration at the University of Delaware on a graduate level for 28 years. And so it was something I knew like the back of my hand because I had grown up with it. And so even when I was in high school and college, all the civics courses, political science courses, all that, I killed it because it was instilled in me
Yes.
for really two generations. And his mother was a college graduate and had a master's degree, and she was in she had a public service role also in Philadelphia. So all of my family have a pretty long history of public service, including my mother. And so that was just drilled into us. And of course, I worked on multiple political campaigns. And so that's why it was kind of a natural fit. But when I went to I didn't at Morehouse, I minored in business in addition to public administration. But when I got to graduate school, I made sure I took half of my classes that were related to business. So accounting, statistics, economic, all kinds of management information systems courses. And this is before laptops came out. And so everybody had a dumb terminal and they were connected to a mainframe computer. And I just said, I'm gonna try this technology track. And so my first job, I was a statistician. I crunched numbers all day, all kinds of econometric modeling, and it was just a great foundation for me. And I still look at things from a number standpoint and a system standpoint.
So at what point did you think to yourself, okay, maybe I can transition into banking? Or from Morehouse, you did a little banking, then went back to, give me a little bit of background. How do we go from public administration to banking?
I started off working for the state of Delaware as a statistician in their finance department. And then in Delaware, they had a law that they allowed commercial banks and credit card banks to charge an unlimited amount of interest.
Wow.
Credit cards up to it could be 100% if they wanted to. So they didn't have any usury laws. And so back then, there were very few African Americans that had my credentials and skill set. And so I worked for the government for 2 years, and then I was recruited to work for a bank. And they moved me I went into their systems and programming department as a programmer. And I worked there for about 5 years in different systems roles. And I was really one of the only African Americans in that department, and I was paid extremely well. And this is back at a time where this is just when the IT community was taking off.
Okay.
This is when Dell computers put and IBM put laptops on everybody's desk. So this is the infancy of actually computers.
Gotcha.
So today, there's more power in this phone than was actually on my desktop or even the mainframes that I used to program on.
That's kind of crazy to think about.
It is, and it was much harder back then. And so if the network went down, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night, go into the data center, move some cables around, change some switches, and change some settings to actually bring the network back up. Today, you can do that from an iPad
Mm,
anywhere in the world.
man.
Great credentials. So that just shows you how it's actually changed. But to get to I think the crux of your question, how did I get into commercial banking?
Yes, sir.
And so I was working for a bank, and one day I said, I want to do what um, John is doing. And John was a commercial lender. And John was going to all kinds of community events. He was going to golf tournaments. He was going to after hour events. He was taking customers out to dinner. I was like, wow, I kind of want to do that. And they're like, no, Jim, you want to stay in IT. This is going to be the greatest thing since, sliced bread. And I said, I really want to do something different. I've been doing this for about 7 years. And so they said, you're making a huge mistake. And I said, I still want to do it. And I was the highest paid. They put me in collections.
Okay. You're a
I was,
producer.
I was the highest paid collector in the bank.
So you got to
So,
pay their bills.
yeah. And
Gotcha.
that was the way I learned banking in terms of calling on accounts where people were not paying their bills on time. And
Can
so
I
I,
ask you a quick question there, real quick? For
yeah,
those out there who own their practices and we have our AR departments, do you have any tips or tricks to help us help other people pay their bills? If not on time, but before it starts to hit 90, 180 days aging, do you have any tips or tricks
I, I,
you use?
I would say you have to be consistent
Mm,
in terms of follow up. So if you have to have a regimen of, do you follow up at 10 days? Then you follow up at 15 days? Do you follow up at 20 days? Do you send them a letter at 30? Do you send them a letter at 45 days with an attorney? And so I
mm,
think you have to have that consistency. When people know that you're consistent on trying to get your collections, they will pay you.
okay.
But if you call every 60 days or every 45 days and you're not consistent, they'll say, they're not worried about it. They
Okay.
don't need the money.
They don't need the money.
They
Got
don't
you.
need the money. They haven't called me in 2 months.
Yeah.
They must not need the money.
Mm. So they need it, they'll come get it. I
They'll
got you.
come get it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Sorry to interrupt. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. So I did that, was the best in the entire department because I had a really good memory and I could memorize all of my accounts in terms of their phone numbers and when to call them. And so I had the lowest delinquency percentage for my portfolio of all the collectors in the entire bank. And so then they started moving me up and started giving me more training. And so fast forward, the CEO of that bank, and it was a majority bank, was an African American. And one day he tapped me on my shoulder and he said, I want you to help me buy a black bank somewhere in the United States. And this was during the S&L crisis. And it kind of went right over my head. I didn't even think individuals could buy banks.
Mm,
And so fast forward, we bought a bank in Tuskegee, Alabama that was founded by Booker T. Washington.
wow.
It was a $21 million bank in a very rural community where Tuskegee University is located. And we bought that bank for $5,000, a $21 million bank.
Wow. 21 million being assets under management.
Mhm. For $5,000. This was during the S&L crisis. Now we had
I don't
to,
know what the SNL crisis is, just for those who don't know.
yeah, it was during 1988 to 1991. Now, we had to recapitalize the bank with $2 million in capital. We borrowed $1.5 million or so from the FDIC. And so this bank president took his life savings and injected it into the bank.
Wow.
And so he gave me 10% ownership of the bank, and he tapped two other guys that were African Americans who worked at that same bank. And we went down there. We all lived in the same house for 15, 16 months, and we turned the bank around. So, funny story, that bank had a 47% delinquency rate, meaning almost 50% of the loans were delinquent.
Jeez.
When
Is
we,
that why it went from $5,000 because
yeah,
they
it was,
assume
it
their
had failed.
liabilities?
It had
Oh, okay.
failed. It had
Okay.
failed as a bank. We bought the assets, which includes the loans. And so, again, having that skill of collecting on accounts,
Exactly what's needed.
that's what was needed. And he
Mhm.
knew it. And he said, I need you. And
That's the leader right there.
the
Connecting need
FDIC,
with skill.
yeah, the FDIC said you guys will never get the delinquency rate down. And it took us about 3 years to get it down about 3.5% from 47%. And they couldn't believe it.
Hold on, you reduced it 3%, or you got it from 41 down to 3%?
Yeah, we got it from 47% down to 3.5% in 3 years. But it
What?
was the consistency.
Wow. Just staying consistent with the collections. Hey guys, this is what you owe. This is what you
And
owe.
so I had, a technology background. So I brought two computers. That bank didn't have a single personal computer or laptop. I
Mm,
brought two, and I created different databases in terms of who to call, when to call, where do they work, what's their home number, because this is before cell phone numbers and all that, and
got you.
email addresses. And I set it all up, and I just systematically took the top delinquent accounts, and we worked our way down to the lowest balances.
Mm.
But again, it was technology, having the right analytical mind to kind of figure out how do you solve this problem.
For the doctors out there who just heard what he said, I don't want that to get missed. He started with the largest balance and put the manpower towards the largest balances and worked his way down. Sometimes it feels like we want to put the same amount of energy towards every bit of AR, and it just doesn't make sense. If you have $200, that's 180 days aging versus having 2,000 to $5,000, that's 30-day aging. I mean, they can't receive the same amount of energy. We, again, as private offices, just don't have the manpower to chase everything the same way. So please, I don't want anybody out there to miss that. That's an amazing key right there. Please continue. Let me ask you this. Was that MBNA Bank or was that Memphis Bank, or am I just off on all those?
Yeah, you're off on all of them. So it was First Tuskegee Bank, and it was
Okay.
one of the oldest African American owned banks in the United States at that time. So it was founded in 1894 by Booker T. Washington with $2,500. And
Hmm.
so it was an S&L that we converted to a full service commercial bank.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So where were you when you guys purchased that bank? Which bank were you with at that time?
I was with Beneficial.
Beneficial. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Perfect. So fast forward me, you're in that business. You guys are crushing it. You guys are helping people keep the mortgages or whatever loans that they had, because that's really what you're doing. You're helping people maintain the assets that they put on online. So what happens next?
We really engaged the community because we reviewed as outsiders. We reviewed as Yankees
Mm,
coming down. So we didn't know anybody in Tuskegee, Alabama. No one.
mm.
And so we got involved with the community. We started making donations to the community. We became leaders in the community. And I think the most important thing was we never presented ourselves as being better than anybody else in the community. And we said, we're here to work with you and become active members in the community.
I think that's what a lot of people fear when an outside entity comes in, is they're going to come in, siphon our resources, and head on out. But when
Right.
you're actually committed to the community and you win over the trust of those there, I mean, it becomes a partnership. That's amazing.
The best part about working in a small community like that is you get to see the tangible impacts you're having from a lending standpoint because it's so small. So you make a mortgage loan here, church loan here, small business loan there, an equipment loan, you actually see it. And we would put up signs that said, financed by First Tuskegee Bank. And so the president and I would ride around the little town just looking for our signs. And we
That's
would stick our chests out. We were happy because we knew we were making an impact.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This isn't like a t-shirt, you know?
Yeah.
This is families building generational wealth.
Right.
This is people taking pride in what they do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, if you don't take pride about that, I don't know what we should take pride about. So that's absolutely amazing. So did you transition out of that into government, or did you already have completed your time in government at that point?
Yeah, government was like 7 years earlier.
Okay, so that's complete at that point.
That's completed. And so I left there to go work to start a bank from scratch in Memphis, Tennessee. I'd worked at First Tuskegee for almost 9 years. I was the chief operating officer, so I was the number two person in charge. And I went into the president's office, who was a real good friend and mentor of mine. And I said, I got an offer. I don't want to take it because I like what I'm doing here. My family's based here. It requires me to move. And he said, you got to take it.
Mm,
You, I've set you up to be the president and CEO of a financial institution by working here for the past 9 years. You have to take it. You
that's
have the skill set to do it. And I was like, does he really want me to leave? And he said,
He
yeah.
don't want you to leave, but he knows you need to leave.
He said, you need to leave. You need to go for that experience.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I was like taken back. I thought he might say, nah, man, you need to stay here with me. He was like, no, immediately. You need to take this opportunity. You're not going to get another opportunity like this.
It's good leadership. It's the same gentleman that tapped you on the shoulder that saw
Same gentleman.
in you.
Same gentleman.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's good, man. So you start your bank from scratch. You have all the expertise, but you've never done it from scratch at this point. So walk me through your mind as you're taking this on.
Yeah.
You
That
have
one was
a-
from scratch. And so I was the face of the bank. We had to raise about $6 million to start the bank. And so I was out there with my prospectus, actually calling on every type of investor in the city of Memphis. Again, I didn't know a single person,
Mm,
just like I didn't know anybody when I moved to Alabama. But I engaged people. I followed up with people, um, told them, the vision for the bank and how we're going to serve, the various communities where we were located there. I told them about the first Tuskegee story. And so they got all excited that, you got this guy coming here who's energetic and, wants to lend money into the community there. And so it worked out really well. It worked out good. It was a great experience to do it from scratch.
mhm.
And most bankers do not get that opportunity to build a bank from scratch. So
No.
raised the capital, selected the facility, hired all the people, installed all the systems, developed all the marketing materials. You name it, I did it all.
Mm. Who is your team when you're doing all this? Like, I get you know a lot of this, but you're only one human. Who are you bringing in on these projects to go from to Tuskegee Bank to literally starting Memphis Bank? Who's supporting you through all this?
Yeah, so on the Tuskegee Bank, the president brought all of us from the same bank.
Okay, so you came with your team. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that was shrewd. He could trust us. He knew our capabilities. The bank was shocked
Mm,
that these African Americans left to buy a bank in Alabama. They were just shocked that we would give up, our positions. But when I went to Memphis, I took the CFO from First Tuskegee, and now the president was upset with that. But I needed to have somebody that was strong from an operational standpoint and strong from a financial standpoint.
absolutely.
But when I got up there, I looked for the best branch managers, the best branch manager, the best commercial lender, the best operational person. And it just kind of eventually integrated them in to form a team up there.
So this is very similar to like when we're starting practices from scratch and we're trying to figure out who exactly we're going to bring along on this road to get to where we need to. So when you said you're finding the best branch manager, are you hiring based off of like previous expertise, or are you just trying to find the right personality fit and you're going to train that? How did you go about identifying who would be the best in these different positions?
I asked we had a board of directors and we had a group of founders, and I said, tell me the best branch managers that you interact with here in Memphis. So I had a list of branch managers, and let's say it was 10, and I narrowed it down to five, and I interviewed all five, and I came up with the one that was the best.
That's good. So it seems like you don't want to try to train from scratch. You want to make
Yeah.
sure that you have the expertise because we're already starting from scratch. We can't
Mhm.
add scratch on top of scratch. And we need some people who know what they're doing to make sure we're responsible with the capital that people have entrusted us with.
Yeah, I think for a small bank, you always want to hire people, or small practice, people that have experience, because
Mm,
it'll help you grow faster, and
makes
it
sense.
helps you deliver better service because they're not
Gotcha.
learning. They know what they're doing.
Good. So in Memphis, as you're matriculating through there, at what point do you move towards and becoming CEO of M&F Bank?
That's still a long ways away.
Walk me through. Walk me
Yeah,
there.
so I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. There's a huge credit card company called MBNA. They have about 28,000 employees all across the United States and the world. And one day I got to meet the CEO of that particular company by happenstance. And one of his direct reports said, James Sills never calls us back. And I said, I'm happy where I am. I'm the president and CEO of a small bank. And this bank at that time was probably 100 plus $100 million in total assets. So it was a pretty large bank.
That one branch.
No, that one bank
Okay, so you started branching out from there.
this our bank in Memphis was about 35 to 40 million. The bank MBNA was about
Oh, gotcha.
125 million dollars in total assets.
With you. Okay.
And so the CEO says, I want to talk to you tomorrow. And I was a little taken back because I was just like, well, I said to myself, I only have one suit, one tie, and one shirt. I was up there for an event. And so my father and I are about the same size. And so I borrowed one of his shirts and one of his ties, and I went in and I met with the CEO the very next morning. And he said, I want you to join my team. He didn't say, I'd like for you to join my team. Do you have any interest in joining my team? He said, I want you to join our team. And I want you to come back up here and interview with all of my direct reports. And I want to do this very quickly. I was like, oh, okay. And so, yeah, we had a good interaction. He was very smart, asked really great questions. And so to fast forward, I went back and I interviewed with all of his direct reports. And so the interview started at breakfast at 7:30 in the morning, and it went all the way to about 9:30. They took me out to dinner. So it was an exhausting day.
Hmm.
And I probably had 11 different interviews.
Wow.
So I flew back to Memphis that night on the last flight back to Memphis out of Philadelphia. The very next morning at 9:30, which was a.m. for Delaware time, but at 8:30 in the morning for Memphis time, they're calling me on the phone and they say, we want to hire you.
Wow.
You did great.
Mm.
When can you start? And so I said, I don't know if I'm prepared to accept an offer like that right now. I still have some work to finish. Plus, my wife has a job, a pretty good, my wife's a lawyer, pretty good job at a major law firm down there.
Mm.
And I'd have to talk it over with my family. So they say on the phone, without even seeing my wife's resume, your wife's got a job.
Wow.
What else do you need? I said, well, I would need a signing bonus and a full relocation. package. Done. When can you start?
They're just shooting down all of the things that you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. I
And
didn't even have time to really think about it because
yeah.
I interviewed, came back.
Hmm.
So it was less than, to be totally honest, it was less than an 8 hour, because I went to bed
Exhausted.
exhausted. And you're waking up and the COO of the bank is on the phone with me.
Wow.
So here's the interesting part. I interview with every aspect of the bank. Where do you think they put me?
I would have guessed where your expertise is in collections or technology is what I would guess.
So they put me in technology.
So I would guess.
And I was shocked because I did have about 13, 14 years of banking experience, but they put me in a really unique role. They put me in a role where I was the director of all the projects. And so we would do about 300 to $400 million in projects a year.
Mhm.
And so I would interface with the technology teams, but also there were 16 different business units. And so I kind of had an interesting role where I could talk banking because I knew banking, but I also knew the technology side. And so they hired me specifically so I could interface with the business units without talking all that technology jargon because business executives hated that.
Yeah.
And so they said, and we had about 4,800 employees in the technology division. And they said, you're the only one that has that skill set in the whole bank, but also the whole technology division. So
But it makes
that's
sense,
why
though.
we're hiring you.
I mean, I'm just thinking about back to your colleagues telling you, why would you leave this technology to go into banking, not knowing that this is literally setting you up to be the only person, probably maybe one of the few in the country that could really communicate both sides together in a changing fintech world where you have to be able to talk technology and banking if you want to compete on a high level.
And it just, like I said,
That's amazing.
it was God given to put that two skill sets together because most people didn't have it. They had either the business or they had the technology. They didn't have both.
Yeah.
And so I knew how, because working in a small bank, you know how everything works.
Mm.
There's not that many levels in a small bank. So you kind of know operationally how a bank works and how a bank makes money. But that was a great experience there. And then the financial crisis hit, and then we were acquired by,
2008, I'm guessing.
yeah,
Okay.
2009, 2008. We were acquired by Bank of America. And so I worked there for about a year. And then I got a really nice package and I left. And then the governor of Delaware, he just calls me up on the phone one day. He says, I want you to be the CIO, Chief Information Officer for the state of Delaware.
Wow.
I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I hadn't worked in government for like
Yeah.
25 plus years. But I was the cabinet secretary. I was over all the technology, about 34,000 end users. And it was a great experience. I was basically my own
Transition.
boss. I was my
Yeah,
own
that's
boss.
a tough transition going from from private, where like if you see an issue, you can quickly fix an issue, to public, where you have to talk to a lot of people just to get one thing done. How was that transition for somebody as driven as you?
It was not easy, but you got to remember my background. My background was in public administration.
Right.
My father was the mayor. My father was a state representative for almost over 10 years. And so I had a lot of experience with dealing with political issues and political things.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So once again, you're perfectly fitted for the role that you assumed.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So you do that for a few years, and I'm guessing 2014 they give you a call, or walk me through that
Yeah,
process.
so that's another just one of those things. Executive search firm called me up, says there's an opportunity in Durham, North Carolina, and I said I don't want to move. I'm not interested. And so the headhunter was somebody that I've known for a long time. And he says, I really need you to do me a favor and go down there and talk to the board. And so the board of directors, I went down there and I told them the first Tuskegee story about how we transformed it to make it more relevant to the markets. And they loved that story. And so I interviewed with them and they made me an offer about 10 minutes after the interview. So similar, they call me, I fly back that evening, they call me the very next morning. We want to finalize the details. And when can you start? I said, I, I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
My wife and I have to talk this over. I was an empty nester, so I didn't have, my kids were out of the house at that time. But it's been a great experience working here. My father is from North Carolina. All his family's from North Carolina. So now I've kind of come back full circle. And it's like I said, it's been a great experience.
That's amazing, man. So, so they call you, and once again, they want you, and they don't want to get off the phone until they get you, or they don't want to let you leave until you give some type of commitment, man. That's amazing that people. One thing I've noticed that it seems like is a continual theme is that the people who are contacting you know what they need, and you're just verifying once they have a conversation with you that you can bring what they think that they need. And is that similar type of leadership style that you take into M&F Bank now, where you know what, if I need something, I'm going to go find the person who can do it? Or how exactly has that changed your leadership style within M&F Bank?
I would say it's changed over time. Um, I think it's important to hire people that are smarter than you. I think it's important to hire people that don't agree with you on everything. I think it's important that I encourage people who report to me to be just as curious as I am and to be detailed oriented. And I say, if I can find that kind of person, that's the person that's going to work best with me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to hop into a quick rapid fire, a few questions,
Okay.
wrap out this leadership section, and then we'll shift gears from there. Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So what's the hardest decision you've made since becoming CEO of M&F Bank?
I had multiple decisions like that, but I think the hardest one was the bank had been profitable for 108 straight years. And the bank had, when I came here, had a high delinquency rate, about 10%,
Your expertise.
my expertise. So I went into the board and I said, I've tried to work these accounts for about 2 years, really hard, and these borrowers are not going to improve. And so we need to sell these loans at a loss and create a loss for the bank in the first time in 109 years.
Wow.
You know, they weren't going for it.
It's a tough ask.
Well, what about the streak? I said, this is going to propel the bank to be more successful into the future. And so we took the hit, so to speak. And then the following year, we had an additional loss. So we actually lost money 2 years in a row. And they were upset. The shareholders were upset. The board was upset, but it was the right financial decision for the bank to turn around and grow. So I would say that was probably the toughest decision I made. The other decision that I made is I wanted to make the bank more relevant to the communities that we served. And so, you probably knew the bank as Mechanics and Farmers Bank. It's still Mechanics and Farmers Bank, but for branding purposes, we call it M&F Bank now. And we changed the colors. You would have thought I changed the world by changing the colors and de-emphasizing the word mechanics, and farmers. Because no one knows what a mechanic is nowadays. No one knows what a farmer is. And we used to get calls here. Do you guys do ag loans? We don't do agricultural loans. We're located in the five largest urban markets in North Carolina. So those were probably the two toughest decisions that I made, but they've worked out.
Got you. I thought you would have said possibly Optus Bank doing the merger that you guys just completed, man. That was
No,
an easy
no,
one
that's
for you. That
yeah,
was
I didn't want to bring that. It's so new, but that's we're still kind of digesting that a little bit.
congratulations. It's an amazing feat, honestly, for M&F Bank.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you. We'll
reading
have to do another
follow
podcast
up
on that.
how
Yeah.
that one goes. Absolutely, absolutely. What would you say the biggest mistake as a CEO you've made?
Trying to do it all.
Mm,
You just can't.
yeah,
Yeah, we're in 5 markets. Um, there's a lot of different people, and every market's a little different. Raleigh's different than Durham. Durham's different than Raleigh. Uh, Raleigh's different than Charlotte. Um, I would say that's the biggest mistake, trying to do it all. I'm up in age, and so now I know it's more important to kind of delegate versus trying to do it all.
absolutely. I think that's something that practice owners of all kinds within medicine and dentistry can honestly
Mhm.
empathize with, because a lot of us feel like we have to do it all. Because if we
Right,
do it ourselves, then what is it going to be done right? So
right.
that's something we're all consistently working on as well. One thing that you told me is that you've dealt with you've had a lot of mentors in your past. So let's take your father off the table here. Who would you say is your biggest mentor?
I would say I have a few mentors. There were two black executives in Wilmington, Delaware, that were always wanting to know, what am I doing? How am I doing? And then they got me into my first banking role, and I didn't want to disappoint them. And so they would say stuff to me like one day I was at the corporate headquarters and I had a sport coat and slacks on. It was a Friday. I had a tie on, and one of them tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "Never wear a sport coat and slacks at the corporate headquarters. And let me tell you something else. You need to wear a suit every day because there's a lot of eyes on you."
Mm,
I was like, okay. And then the other guy is the guy that was my real mentor. He's the one that tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I want you to help me purchase this bank."
absolutely.
And he delegated everything to me, even though some of it I didn't even know or know what I was doing. And he says, "You'll learn it. You're going to make some mistakes, but you'll learn it. It'll make you a better person. Get a better executive, and you'll go to the highest levels of banking by going through this experience." And then when I got to MBNA, I had an incredible mentor. Um, he was a division president. I was an executive vice president. And he sat me down and he told me the do's and don'ts of working at MBNA. And it was the best information. Normally, when you're an executive going into a majority bank like that at a high level, there's a lot of eyes on you and they let you fall. They want you to fail. And this guy said, "We're not going to let you fail." And so this is a good story. So I started there with I was an executive vice president. I started with one employee. Think
Mm,
about that. And they were paying me a bunch of money. And then I got a team. Then I got another team. Then I got 4 teams. And then I had the whole department.
mm,
In about a 14-month period of time, because they wanted to make sure I understood the culture
makes sense.
and what leaders are supposed to do at that particular institution. And they schooled me really well. He schooled me really well. And I had a one-on-one with him every 2 weeks. And we would talk about anything. And he wanted me to engage the business units. He says, "I want you to be the face of technology, engaging those business units.
Mm,
Of course, you can't know everything, and it's okay to say, 'I don't know, but let me follow back up and get back to you.'" And so he gave me certain confidence that, I was like, wow, this is a lot of information to be covering all the projects for a really large bank. And this, so when other executives would ask you, you had to know the answer.
absolutely. So you saying that honestly, it resonates with me in a different way because I'm coming from my MBA program before I even go to dental school. Then I'm going to Chapel Hill, was like one of the top dental schools in the nation,
Mhm.
one or two with Michigan. And then when I'm coming from my MBA background, it's more collaborative, it's more focus groups focused. And then you go to dental school where it's like, I mean, it's people coming straight from undergrad. This is people who are scientists. It's a completely different way of doing business. And if I would have had a mentor sit me down the way your mentor did and say, you know what, me telling you this doesn't make you any better or worse. I just want you to be able to speak the language of where you're at now. That was probably what made the transition from MBA to dental school so rough for those first 2 years because I was trying to figure out, how do I speak Rome or how do I speak like the Romans do in Rome? That was
Mhm.
a tough transition for me. So I'm glad you had that. That's
Yeah,
really
the other thing that he really instilled in me, and I had this naturally, he wanted me to ask questions in meetings. He wanted me to give my opinion in meetings because of my background. And a lot of times when African Americans get to a certain level in corporations, they don't speak up. They don't volunteer to take on projects. They don't volunteer on some of the community activities. And he told me, you have to do all of that. You also have to donate to the charities that the bank is supporting. And you have to commit to a nice percentage of your salary to do that. Because if you don't, your name gets on a list. And so he gave me all that ins and outs of what to do and what not to do. And I had a very successful career there because of him. And a lot of people wouldn't share that with you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Just kind of stuff you wouldn't even think of. When you
What do you think
look
of?
things you're not even thinking of.
Yeah,
But for them, it's this is how we do things.
exactly.
Doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just how they do things. And you don't become successful without having a way of doing things.
Definitely.
Resonate with that 100%. So last two here. What does success mean to you today at this point? You've achieved so much. What does success look like for you now?
Um, I would say for me, and it's not a personal thing, but I would say I'm still passionate about what I do. I want this bank or our bank to continue to serve communities by providing access to capital. Wilmington, Delaware is a small community. Tuskegee was a small community. Memphis was kind of large, but I know I'm having an impact. And so that's the success that I want to continue beyond me when I, leave here. Did I make a difference? And I know I've made a difference here. I know I've made a difference in a lot of places where I've worked, but that would be success to me.
Good. So that feeds right into my last question for you. What still motivates you at this point in your career? Empty nester, you've done it all. You've been a CEO of a major bank, 10 plus years. What still motivates you?
I like what I do.
Good.
I'm a continuous learner. I know I can help more people. I can mentor I mentor quite a few people. Uh, I just like it. I don't know why. I don't have a good answer, but I just like what I do.
That's good.
I don't view it as a job. So when I have to work on the weekends or go to an event or go and do public speaking or go on a TV show, do a podcast, I don't view it as a job. I view it as service. And so I kind of view it as servant leadership. And then I'm giving something back that maybe people can get something out of.
Wow, that was an action-packed episode we had with Mr. James Sills, the CEO of M&F Bank. And one of the few takeaways that I had was number one, that every time he was promoted or he moved into a new job, it always seemed like the CEO or the leader that tapped him on the shoulder knew exactly what they needed and who the person for the job was. It's as if they already hired him before they even interviewed him. And that's something as practice owners or you being an associate looking for a job in the future can really think about. Where can my skill sets best shine, or whose skill sets do I need in this particular role for our practice to grow as fast as possible? So that's what I really learned from just being in the mind of a CEO. And one thing I learned was that you don't have to be the smartest person, but finding the most qualified person is usually best for the continual growth of your organization. This was a very fun and action-packed episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you would like your questions answered on an episode of the Generational Dr. Wealth Show, feel free to share your thoughts and feedback at the information below. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be financial, legal, or medical advice. We are not acting as your personal financial advisors. The strategies discussed are general in nature and may not be appropriate for your individual situations. You should always consult your own qualified financial, tax, and legal professionals before making decisions about your money. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions you take based on the information shared on this show.